Hey everybody, it's Man James, Mr. Glenn Treasure, back again with some more video action for you. This is part two of a bit I've been putting together for you guys. I've been kind of going through this whole theme of the state of the comic industry, both in terms of the sales and the people in charge. And this is part of a two-part piece I did on Marvel President Dan Buckley. And the first part you just saw, I just put it up a couple days ago. You saw that, and that he covered a Comics Pro interview he did, a little speech he made to Comics Pro, the organization, and to the retailers. Now, this one is an interview he did for another article, I think, just before that, and this is more like just in general to the public. And again, it'll spotlight just how out of touch these people are with what's going on in their actual industry. You already saw the numbers. I showed you the numbers. You saw that a few days ago. How they're manipulating the numbers and trying to pump things up to make you think that things are rosier than they actually are. And this is just more of the same. And you just see how these people are just completely out of touch with what's going on in the industry. So again, it's something very thought-provoking, very timely. I thought you would all kind of enjoy it. And let me know what you guys think if you check all this stuff out. And I'll be back soon with some more stuff. And until next time, take care.
The last thing we're going to do here is this is from an ICV2 interview that Buckley did before he did the Comics Pro commencement keynote speech. And I thought that would be interesting because the questions he's asked, some of these questions are very interesting, and even more so his answers. Again, it shows you just how out of touch all these people are. But let's start out with the big picture questions. We want to talk about the market, but let's start with the medium. What's your evaluation of the state of the comics medium? Dan Buckley, it's in flux, but I think it's in a healthy place. Obviously, there's been a lot of change in distribution specifically in our core comics business. As I mentioned in my keynote, there's also a great deal of growth and opportunity coming from the middle grade original graphic novel business, where there's a lot of new readers to be found, which is good. If you asked me 10 years ago, what was the thing I was most fearful of? I was most fearful of the fact that the newsstand business collapsed and we no longer had a place for people to try out comics or learn how to read graphic fiction. Now we actually have a world of people who really want to read it. It's our job to go find them now and convert them into our business. But I feel very good about that. The digital comics business is also going through a bit of a flux, but I feel like it's in a really good place. Business models and vendors are trying to figure out how they fit in this new ecosystem, but I think there's a great opportunity for growth. The last piece is that there is also a great deal of interest in comics and graphic fiction in the Kickstarter world. He's talking about crowdfunding. It's probably more of a creator-owned talent world than publisher world, but it brings in health and vibrance to the industry. As I said, I think there is a lot of change, but I feel good about the industry. There's just some habits and new practices we'll need to get to. I don't know exactly what they are, but we're experimenting and playing with different things to take advantage of those changes. So what he's basically saying is things are changing. We don't know how. We don't know what we're going to do, but it's all good. Yet, as you saw with the numbers, yeah, they're bringing in, there's a lot of new readers to be found. Yes, but they don't want what you produce. So what good does that do? See, again, this is how out of touch people like Dan Buckley are. Drilling down a little bit by channel, what are your thoughts on the state of the direct market? I also feel the direct market is in a much better place than most people think it is. I'm sorry. Did we just not see those numbers that Brian Hibbs talked about? I guess Dan Buckley didn't see that. But I will admit there's some challenges that as we try to find our way out of the pandemic. See, it's just all the pandemic's fault. That's all it is. It's just the pandemic. There's nothing else. Nothing else to see here. We have to find a way to get people in the habit of going to the stores more. Let's get the Wednesday Warriors back. Yes, the Wednesday Warriors you drove away with your shitty work and your talent online, insulting them and telling them they aren't wanted and they aren't needed. Fuck you, Nazi. Yes. That's who you want to get back. You destroy the shops with shitty work that's put them out of business. Fat Jack's 50 years closing up shop. This is who you want to get back. And what are you doing to get them back? Oh, well, we're going to make stuff more female-centric, like the X-Men movie, and more females writing the X-Men comics. So people like Thayer are happy, but, you guys who actually have bought the stuff, well, you guys, fuck off. We just want your money. Shut up. I mean, that's what you should just say. Shut up and give us your money. That's it. I do think a lot of those people are still shopping in stores, but they're not browsing as much. No, actually, a lot of them have just walked away and they don't even buy anymore. And they're not browsing in the stores or even buying from the stores, since a lot of the stores are now gone. What we're hearing is that people aren't coming in every week. They're coming in every 2, 3, 4 weeks picking up their bundles. Except, again, that's not true either. There's plenty of stories of retailers, and I've seen the pictures. They'll sit there with a big stack, next to them, saying it's like $1,562 worth of comics that has been from one file that has not been picked up. And so now the store has to eat that. See, again, this is how out of touch Buckley is. He has no idea what is happening on the front lines. We have to get them to start coming to the store more often, start browsing more often. Yes, we have to get new readers in there, but we have to get the ones that have been habitual readers or lapsed readers to come into the store more often than they are. Again, but what have you done to make them feel like they should be there? You're not producing work they want to see, and your people on the internet aren't treating them as though they're valued. What possible reasoning could they have? Nothing you said in the Comics Pro dissertation suggested you had any concern for these people. So what possible reasoning could they have to want to come back? I think where a lot of frustration comes in the industry is that for many years, as you well know, it was pretty easy to evaluate what the size of the industry was because everyone distributed through one place and we could look at the numbers and figure out what the size of the industry was and what was going on. He's talking about Diamond. I think what Comics Pro is doing, trying to figure out where we can get some more industry data that's broader in place that can give us better optics into the actual size of the industry and how all the players in that industry are doing, will be very helpful. Yeah, there's some challenges there, but I feel pretty good about the industry as a whole. Again, completely out of touch. Completely out of touch. I mean, my God, is he living in the same world? Is he on the same plane of existence? You mentioned trying to get the Wednesday Warriors coming in more. We've heard from retailers that shortening up of series with more and more one-shots, more and more miniseries, and fewer longer ongoing series makes it harder to maintain the habit of collecting. Marvel is definitely in that role. We're hitting some of the same things, and we're experimenting with going a little longer or extending out more. I think the days of having a 500-issue run is probably a reach, but we are looking at having less limited series and more ongoing with all our characters. So right there, he's already admitting defeat. Yeah, we're not going to try to get those big runs like we used to have. Yeah, we're canceling them at like 10 issues now. Yeah, maybe we'll push them out to 15. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing. How about you guys? What are you hearing? That's all I hear. Oh, maybe we'll push them out a little more. Maybe we'll try to drag it. Maybe we'll make it to 25 issues, and then, all right, we'll have to call that one good. I'm not going to say there won't be limited series, but I'm at the moment approving some series for 10 issues at a time, not 4 or 5. I mean, is this a joke? I mean, is he trying to punk us? Hopefully I can get it to 15 or 20. Just 20 issues and like, wow, that's a hell of a run. 20 issues. I remember back in the day when if you didn't break 50 issues, you were considered a failure. I remember Quasar. Quasar lasted 60 issues. That's the intent. Because to be honest, it's a lot of work on our editorial staff too to restart books all the time. Then why do you keep doing it? I mean, come on. It's like he's acting like this is like something they can't control. It's very easy to control. Stop producing shit work, and then you don't have to keep rebooting all the goddamn time. This is not rocket science. This is not brain surgery. There's a lot of work on our marketing staff to remarket a book coming out. It's to the benefit of everyone to figure this out. Yes, it is. And I've already figured it out for you, Dan. Can your shitty politics-minded creators put on people who care about the characters and wanting the books to sell, create quality work, Quit fucking dropping books and renumbering everything every 6 months for a new number one. Go for those 500 fucking issue runs. And when some of the fucking leftist whiners start coming in saying that they hate this because you're not having enough diversity, tell them to go fuck off and die and keep doing what you're doing. That's the solution, my friend. There you go. I just helped you figure it out. You're welcome. You mentioned the middle grade market as a growing area. Marvel has taken a little different strategy over the last few years, which is to do more licensing of your properties to other publishers that are already strong in that market. Why did you choose that path rather than trying to publish that material for younger readers yourself? I will admit, we tried for a couple of years, but there's a couple of different things that really played into it. One, I've got a great editorial staff, I've got a great sales team, and they've done great work over the years. The blind leading the blind. They're great at telling stories in our core ecosystem of the direct market, which is why the numbers are so wonderful, because they're so great at that. Asking them to do stories that work a little bit differently and target different demographics was a bit unfair to them, and I think was confusing the system within our own group. Yes, telling them you need to target this at a certain group was somehow unfair. Okay. The other thing is that I thought it was important to work with partners that have the best distribution channels to get those readers. I could have made perfect product, but then I would have to figure out how to get those readers to show up in the stores. Yes, because God forbid that you actually have to market your fucking work. What I need to do first is figure out how to make the product intelligently, getting kids connected to our characters of that age group, and get product in their hands. Hopefully, we'll work with our partners to make that product available in our hobby shops. It's not my decision completely, but we are going to work on that, which basically means that nothing's going to change. What I thought was more important to learn was to learn stuff from other publishers who have great success selling this type of product to that age group, and we've been really happy with the results, and we're learning a lot. Licensing isn't just a business revenue approach, it's a strategy to figure out the best way to do things that you're not an expert at. Well, given everything we've seen so far from Dan, he doesn't seem to be much of an expert on anything in this business. So, how many partners is he going to need? Comic sales and graphic novel sales were softer last year. You mentioned something in your keynote at Comics Pro that you were doing to try to improve the product, specifically the internal process that you're using to try to bring people together for better planning and to make the results more creatively driven. We're tapping into the process that worked really well for us pre-pandemic. It's made a big difference because getting the editorial staff physically in the same room makes editors speak to each other. It makes creators talk to each other. It gets people more excited about projects. But are you making the readers excited for the projects? Are you making the retailers excited for the projects? Just asking. It's much more helpful with interacting with our marketing team because everyone can feel that they're getting face time and they're contributing. They can feel like they're, not that they actually are, mind you, they get to feel like they are. I do feel like Blood Hunt is a much stronger presentation than anything we've done in a really long time because people are in the room talking to each other, getting excited, coming up with ideas. The X-Men from the Ashes launch in July is also benefiting from that interaction. Yes, the X-Men relaunch with 3 writers who are horrible, leading the way. The Blood Hunt story, which I'm being told to a lot of people I've heard is pretty much like pointless and way too long, like 60-some books to tell this story, where it's basically the Marvel heroes versus vampires. I mean, you could have done a 4-issue miniseries and told that story. This is what getting everyone together is getting you. Overblown events and middling relaunches by shitty creators. That's what they want you to get excited for. The other side of the product area, beyond process, is talent. compared to 10 years ago, you're in a much more competitive environment for talent, not just from more publishers involved in comics, but you mentioned Kickstarter earlier. You've got opportunities for people to go direct to consumer. There are opportunities for talent to own portions of the companies that they're being published by. There's media participation. How does Marvel compete in that environment, and how can you maintain your access to talent? That's a very good question. This should be interesting, I think. I don't buy your initial theory. So there you go, right there. You just told. I don't believe that hogwash, that malarkey. I think there's plenty of talent in the industry to tap into. Oh my God. I think there's plenty of talent in the industry to tap into. You know, out of everything I've read from this asshole, this has to be the most out of touch thing I've heard him say. Where is this great talent in the industry? Where? Who? You know? Where are the Todd McFarlanes, the John Byrnes, the George Perez's, the Alan Moores, the Mark Millers, the Bill Mantlos? Where are these men? Where are these people? Where are the Ann Nescentis? Where are the Louise Simonsons? The Walt Simonsons? In the industry today? Who are they? Because I don't see them. Again, the closest I can come to is maybe Daniel Warren Johnson with the new Transformers book. And maybe Robert Kirkman, maybe. Although based more off, his past work than the current stuff, that X-Men Krakoa nonsense. But that's about it. Who else you got? Where's the talent? You've driven them off. And now they're out there making their own stuff, a la Comicsgate and the like. Or they've moved into other areas, advertising, copywriting, whatever, that's actually gives them a better paycheck and benefits than working in comics. Or they just given up and walked away. So all you got is a bunch of middling fucking Tumblr types working on everything. And the work shows it. And the sales show that. Jesus Christ. There's cycling of talent always as people age out or move into other mediums, or they're just not as hot as they were 5 years ago. Interacting and recruiting talent obviously got crushed during the pandemic. You can't keep hiding behind the fucking pandemic. It was 4 fucking years ago. We're reinvigorating the process, and that's where getting in the rooms and talking to each other is incredibly important, because the talent that's coming up and you're talking to, they're in a room. They're talking like two people. They're getting to feel for how we operate. Translation, they're being told, you better be with the program of indoctrination and DEI and CRT, or, you're done. That's basically what that is. Yeah, the world is always changing. It's challenging, but we're no longer in the peak TV world. 2 years ago, there were 600 TV shows being made. There were an exorbitant amount of live-action TV shows being made, right? That number's going down. Yes, because the ones you put out sucked, and nobody watched, and they failed. And they blew your parent company, your corporate overlords, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. There's talent available out there in the world, and I'm feeling less poaching from outside, but there's also more of us being out there recruiting people, and that's great. I don't see Kickstarters being a problem for Marvel. It's a place to recruit talent from, except why would they do that? If they're being successful at crowdfunding, if they're able to make 6- and 7-figure crowdfunding goals on their own projects that they own, that they get all the rights to, so that there's a movie or a TV deal or anything, any kind of licensing of apparel or knickknacks, they get the money. Why would they want to go say, let me take my talent to Marvel, where they'll suck me dry, take everything I have, and then throw me away when they're done? All for a pittance of what I'm making now. Who would sign up for that, Dan? Just asking. It's no different than looking at guys who are doing image books and saying, hey, come over here and work with us. We're a work for hire shop. Do you're creator owned. We'd love to have you come on board. But do they want to come on board, Dan? That's the thing. You may want them to come on board, but they're not going to. Maybe they've been burned by you in the past. They're not going to do it again. Maybe they're making more money now doing what they're doing now. They ain't going to go down work for you for less. Finding talent is hard. Not arguing that point, except you are. But I don't think it's any harder than it was 5 years ago. No, it's actually much harder. It's actually much harder. It's been a few years now since the big distribution change, and you address the whole fragmentation of data and some of the things that are being done to try to improve that side of it. Retailers obviously have more burdensome relationships to manage in terms of the numbers of relationships they have to manage to get product in. You said when you made the change that it would bring in better infrastructure and it's going to help us. Do you think those two things have balanced out in a positive way? I'll admit the data is frustrating and I don't have to deal with the headaches the retailers deal with on a day-to-day basis. Wow. I don't know. I know having multiple vendors and multiple partners is challenging, but sometimes really good things have come out of that. How retailers deal with shipping and freight, it's better situation for them now than before. How quaint of him to say without actually, knowing. As he said, he doesn't deal with the day-to-day basis stuff, but yet he knows, this is so much better for them. Competition helps us in this space. I had a great partnership with Diamond, but I think it's been beneficial to the industry. Are there growing pains? Of course. These are big changes for everybody. Is everyone happy with us for it? No. And I get that too. And they don't have to be happy, and I respectfully understand that, i.e., I don't give a damn. We're looking at things slightly differently. We're approaching things differently. We feel like we're in a better position to help grow the industry as a whole for a variety of different reasons, but I prefer not to get into it. Translation, I have nothing. I don't know what's going on here. We did these things because at the time we felt it we had to save the company. We didn't care about the retailers. We didn't care about the readers. We didn't care about the distributors. We didn't care about anybody else but ourselves. Fuck all them. It was all about us. And as far as how this goes forward, well, we have no fucking clue. That's what he's saying. Another question on content. Over the past decade, Marvel has very successfully expanded the demographics of its audience. That's led to an overall growth in the opportunity, which almost everybody regards as positive. But there is a thought from some quarters that led to a decline in appeal for that old core audience of teen and young adult males. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think broadening of our audience had anything to do with if there was some degradation in our appeal with teens and young adult males. If we weren't making the right product to resonate with them out of the core publishing business, that was on our content plan. That was our content plan, not that was on our content plan, not on the broadening of our content and demographics. But the content plan was to get those demographics. So by focusing on those demographics and not on the ones that you had, and changing the content to focus on those new demographics and not on the ones you had, you conceivably drove away the one that you had, and unfortunately for you, the ones you wanted did not show up. See, this is the stuff that isn't said. Our sales don't indicate that we have a huge problem. Obviously, the pandemic created a bunch of white noise. No, Dan, you're the one making white noise every time you mention the pandemic. We have to continue to do a better job leveraging the demographic tentacles that have been created by the success of our games team, and the studio team, and Spidey and his amazing friend on Disney Junior. We continue to say, how do we take advantage of this to reach to help feed the comic book business and grow and sustain that readership base? You've driven away the readership base, Dan, with shitty work and shitty attitude creators online. The Wednesday Warriors you keep saying you want. They're gone. You drove them away. They're the demographic you threw over for the other demographics you were trying to quote unquote reach for. No, I don't buy that our broadening caused a decrease in readership. No, I don't buy that our broadening caused a decrease in readership. You can find a specific book to say maybe that story didn't resonate, but I don't buy that argument. So again, just in case I'm just like, I don't believe that. Nope. Nothing to see here. Nope. that didn't happen. Nope. Never mind that, Brian Hibbs, those numbers, they prove exactly the opposite of what Dan Buckley is saying. Nope, I don't buy it. I mean, what more is there to say after that? What more is there left to say after that? I mean, you can't help a guy who refuses to acknowledge what's actually happening. You just, I mean, and this is the guy in charge. This is the president of Marvel. This is the president of Marvel talking. We already seen the decrease of sales. We already see shops closing. We see, people not buying anymore. He admitted himself. We got to get the Wednesday Warriors back because they're not there anymore. They're not shopping like they used to. So you said all that, but then says, I don't buy that our broadening caused a decrease in readership. I mean, that's like me lighting something on fire and go, well, I don't think that fire burned that. You can't make up how out of touch these people are. You really can't. But, to me, all this stuff that I've shown you today, it shows you, one is where the problems are and that the truth is finally getting through. As much as they want to hide, as much as they want you to believe that everything is fine and hunky-dory, they know it's not. But even though they now are admitting that there are problems, or as Dan calls them, challenges, even though they're starting to admit that now, they still refuse to admit the reasoning for why. It's like if you were an alcoholic and saying, well, yeah, I admit alcohol is a problem, but you don't address, well, what made you an alcoholic? How can you ever hope to get over it? You can't. I know this from personal experience. My father was, God rest his soul, was an alcoholic. And he tried stopping for everybody. My mother, me, my siblings, his mother, God, the law, his job. But he couldn't stop because he wasn't addressing the real problem. And the problem was that he had to want to stop. And he wasn't going to stop until he addressed whatever it was that got him to become an alcoholic in the first place. And he never did. And this is the same thing. Yeah, there's problems. Yeah, there's challenges. But until you acknowledge why that exists, and you stop hiding behind comfortable, euphemisms and scapegoats like the pandemic, you're never going to fix it. So this is why you can't have optimism like Dan says. You can't be excited and exuberant for what's to come because, as you saw, they've learned nothing from it. They're doubling down on the same stupidity that got them where they are. And they're either too blind, too arrogant, or too stupid to see it. So much so that they just brush it off. I don't buy that argument. I don't see that as a problem. It's truly sad that it's come to this, but I fully believe that the only way things are going to change is for the industry to completely go under for the third time. It can fail as many times as you want. You can do all the damage you want to do, but until it's completely destroyed, there is nothing to be done. It cannot be saved.